My life isn't measured in years, but in the tiny, colorful pills I sort every morning onto a small ceramic plate. The small blue ovals are for the seizures. The chalky white rectangles are for the pain that makes his bones ache like an old man's. The little yellow half moons are supposed to keep the nightmares at bay, but they rarely work. 20 years. I've been sorting these pills for 20 years, and the nightmares are still winning. My name is Jasmine, and my world is 80 square meters of faded floral wallpaper and the constant low hum of a hospital-grade air purifier. I'm a graphic designer, technically. At least that's what my degree says. I have a little desk crammed into the corner of the living room where I take on freelance work, designing logos for plumbing companies and menus for local diners between Caden's episodes. It pays the bills, mostly. My real job, my only job, has been keeping my brother alive. It wasn't always like this. Before the accident that took our parents, I was going to travel. I had a dog-eared map of Europe tacked to my bedroom wall, covered in red ink circles over places like Prague and Lisbon. Caden was just a kid then, all knobby knees and goofy, gap-toothed smiles who would sneak into my room with a crayon and add his own circles over places like Antarctica and the moon. I was 18 when I had to take that map down. The thumbtack holes like tiny scars in the wall. He was 10. The day the social worker handed me the keys to our quiet, empty house, she also handed me his life. Caden's condition, it's a thief. A slow, brutal one that started a year after we lost our parents. It began with tremors in his hands, then the deep, radiating pain, then the episodes where his body becomes a prison and his mind a torture chamber. He screams sometimes, not from anger, but from a terror so pure it hollows out the air in the room. In those moments, I hold him, my arms wrapped tight around his thrashing body, and I whisper the same lie I've been telling for 2 decades. It's going to be okay. But it's not. We both know it. And the most terrible secret, the one I can barely admit to myself in the dead of night when the only sound is his ragged breathing through the baby monitor, is that I am so tired. A part of me, a shameful, ugly little part, resents him for the life I never got to live. The map I never used, the love I never found. Then the guilt comes, hot and sharp, because he didn't ask for this. My love for him is the most real thing in my life, a fierce, burning sun that has scorched everything else out of my world. But even suns burn out. I'm telling you this because you need to understand. You need to know that what I did wasn't born from malice or hate. It came from love, twisted and worn down by 2 decades of watching the person I love most in this world be devoured from the inside out. I am telling you this story so that you'll know why, on a quiet Tuesday morning, I finally decided to make the kindest choice of my life. A choice so monstrous, it may have damned us both to something far worse than death. That Tuesday started with a scream. Not one of Caden's usual night terrors, but a sharp, waking cry of pain that ripped through the morning quiet. By the time I reached his room, he was already in the throes of a seizure, his body rigid and arching off the bed in a horrible, unnatural bow. His breakfast tray was on the floor, a splash of oatmeal and orange juice painting a sick imitation of a sunrise on the worn carpet. It took me 10 minutes to administer the emergency shot, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the needle. This was a practiced dance for me, but the panic never lessened. The seizure subsided, leaving him limp and weeping, his words slurred into a thick, incomprehensible soup of misery. The rest of the day was a blur of cleaning up the mess, of coaxing him to take a few sips of water, of him lashing out in a confused rage, throwing a book that caught me just above the eye with a dull, heavy thud. By evening, the storm had passed, as it always did. He was asleep, looking almost peaceful under the dim glow of his nightlight. A boy of 30 trapped in a broken body. I was the one left in the wreckage. I stumbled into the kitchen, my head throbbing where the book had hit. The dirty dishes from a meal I never got to eat were piled in the sink. The air was thick with the metallic scent of Caden's medication and the faint, sour smell of sickness that clung to everything in our home. I leaned against the counter, my knees weak, and slipped down to the cold linoleum floor. The exhaustion was a physical weight, a lead blanket pressing down on my chest, my bones, my soul. I closed my eyes, just for a second, and that's when it happened. The low hum of the refrigerator didn't stop. The clock on the wall didn't cease its ticking. But a new quality entered the room. A profound, absolute silence that swallowed all other sounds. My eyes snapped open. Standing in the middle of my kitchen, where there had been nothing but empty space a moment before, was a person. It wasn't a man or a woman. It was tall and slender, dressed in simple, seamless gray clothes that seemed to drink the light. Its skin was the color of polished alabaster, smooth and without a single flaw. It had a face, but it was a face of impossible symmetry, beautiful and serene, and utterly empty of emotion. It looked at me, and I felt a calm so deep, it was terrifying. All the jagged edges of my panic and grief were smoothed away, replaced by a placid stillness. It didn't move, it didn't threaten, it just was. Then a voice, not from its unmoving lips, but inside my head, a sound like melodic chimes, spoke a single, simple question. Is this what you call love? As quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. The silence shattered, and the drone of the refrigerator rushed back in, loud and jarring. The space where it stood was just empty kitchen floor. My first thought was that I had finally broken. A hallucination, a waking nightmare brought on by 20 years of sleepless nights and relentless stress. I scrambled to my feet, my breath coming in ragged gasps, and checked the back door. Locked. Bolted. The windows were latched. I checked on Caden. He was still sleeping, his breathing soft and even. There was no one here. It wasn't real. I repeated it to myself like a mantra. It wasn't real. It wasn't real. As I scrubbed the dishes with trembling hands, as I wiped down the counters trying to erase the memory of its presence. But I couldn't erase the feeling of that unnatural calm, or the echo of that voice in my mind. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time in years. I huddled under the covers, listening to every creak of the old house, my eyes fixed on the shadows in the corner. Sleep, when it finally came, offered no escape. I woke with a start, my body drenched in cold sweat, with the distinct and certain feeling that I was not alone. And when I opened my eyes, It was there, standing at the foot of my bed, its perfect, serene face illuminated by the faint moonlight filtering through my window. It was closer now, and I could see there were no pupils in its pale, shimmering eyes. It raised a hand, not in a threat, but an invitation, and the four walls of my bedroom dissolved. I wasn't in my bedroom anymore. The grimy window, the water-stained ceiling, the worn patch of carpet at the foot of my bed, all of it was gone. We were floating in a silent velvet darkness, speckled with distant, shimmering lights that were not stars. They were memories. My memories, laid out like a scattered constellation. The emissary, as I had come to call it in my mind, was beside me, its presence a soothing balm against the chill of the void. It didn't need to speak. It simply showed me the truth of our lives, the raw data of our existence. It guided me through the points of light, each one a moment from my past. I saw myself at 17, laughing with my parents on a beach, the sun warm on my skin, a bright, warm star. I saw Caden at 9, missing a front tooth, proudly holding up a finger painting of a lopsided blue dog, another brilliant spark. But these moments of warmth were tiny islands in a cold, black ocean of suffering. For every bright star, there were 100 dead ones. I was forced to relive Caden convulsing on the floor, myself slumped over a stack of medical bills under a single bare bulb at 3 a.m., the endless sterile white of hospital corridors that all smelled of bleach and quiet despair. The emissary laid out the 2 decades of pain and fear and exhaustion, weighing them against the few flickering moments of joy. The scales tipped hard. The logic was as cold and sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. My love wasn't a shield protecting him. It was a cage, and I was the one holding the key, too afraid of my own loneliness to open the door. The emissary didn't need to tempt me. It just showed me the equation. It presented its findings and let me draw my own horrifying, logical conclusion. The final seizure was the one the doctors had always warned me about. They called it catastrophic. I called it the end of the world. It happened in the dead of night, a violent, thrashing storm that no medication could quell, and it left him broken. He was alive, but only just. Hooked up to a dozen machines in a sterile beige room that smelled of antiseptic and despair. His body was a landscape of pain I could no longer soothe. His eyes were open, but they didn't see. A low, constant moan escaped his lips, a sound so full of animal agony it felt like it was sanding down my soul. I sat by his bed for 3 days, holding his limp hand, watching the numbers on the monitors rise and fall, feeling the last of my hope drain away onto the polished linoleum floor. I was an empty vessel, a ghost haunting the bedside of her brother's dying body. On the 3rd night, as a cold rain lashed against the window, the emissary appeared in the corner of the room, its serene form a stark contrast to the blinking beep and chaos of the machines keeping Caden tethered to his suffering. It was time. His suffering can end, the voice chimed in my head, calm and reasonable, a consultant offering a final, sensible solution. Your sacrifice can end. Look at him, Jasmine. Is this life? Is this love? You have held him in this world with your devotion, and this is his reward? There is another place, A garden where there is no pain. He can be free. You can be free. It is the kindest choice for you both. Tears streamed down my face, hot and silent. I looked at Caden, at the wreck of the little boy who used to draw circles on my map. The emissary was right. This wasn't life. This was a symphony of torture, and my love was the conductor. I was selfish. My fear of being alone had kept him here in this hell for years. I leaned over the bed railing, my body aching with a grief so profound it felt like an ending of its own. I kissed his damp forehead and whispered the last lie I would ever tell him. It's gonna be okay, Caden. I love you. Then I squeezed his hand one last time, let it go, and stood up. I didn't look back. I took a step towards the emissary, then another. The choice was made. I was releasing him. I was choosing kindness. A sound behind me cut through the air, a sharp guttural cry of pure panic. I froze, my back still to the bed. It was Caden. His eyes were wide, and for the first time in days, they were seeing me. They saw me walking away. He knew. He tried to speak my name, his mouth forming the shape of it, but it came out as a strangled gasp. His terror, the raw, primal fear of abandonment, slammed into his fragile system. The numbers on the heart monitor went wild, a frantic screaming spike before flatlining into a single, piercing tone that sliced through the room. His last moments weren't a peaceful release. They were a frenzy of horror as he died, watching the only person he had in the world turn her back and leave him to face the darkness alone. As the emissary took my hand and the hospital room dissolved into soft, warm light, the final sound I heard was not the long final beep of the machine, but the echo of my brother's dying terror.
I am in the garden now. It is just as beautiful as the visions promised. The sun is perpetually warm. The air is sweet with the scent of flowers that have no name. And there is no pain. There is no sickness, no fear, no exhaustion. There is only a profound and unending stillness. I got what I wanted. I am free. I can rest. I can finally rest. But my peace is a lie. A cruel and perfect mockery of the relief I craved for 20 years. Because in the soft, eternal silence of this paradise, where no birds sing and no wind blows, there is one sound that never fades. It is the only thing I can still hear. It is the sound of my brother screaming my name as I walked away. It echoes in the stillness, a constant looping reminder of my final, kindest, most monstrous choice. He is not here. I am alone, just as I feared, and the silence is not empty. It is full of him.
Did that story make your skin crawl? That's just a taste of what's lurking. Show your support by liking and subscribing. We're all in this together to survive the next spine-chilling story.